Welcome to This Explainer. Right now we're diving straight into a really profound philosophical journey, guided by Boris Kriger's fascinating book, The Tragic God, Berdyaev and the Abyss. We're going to start with a deeply human suspicion. You know the one, it usually hits late at night, or maybe after a moment of intense grief. It's that quiet, unsettling realization that if there is a divine architect behind all of this, well, the world we actually live in doesn't really match those comforting stories we were told as kids. Today, we're unpacking a totally different way of looking at existence, suffering, and creation.
So let's just rip the Band-Aid off and ask the central, frankly unsettling question here. What if God has a character? And what if that character is inherently tragic? Just asking that question completely shatters this comforting illusion of a perfectly safe, bubble-wrapped universe. It totally challenges the idea of this distant, perfectly calm deity and replaces it with a being who is marked by struggle, risk, and profound vulnerability.
Kriger actually puts this so perfectly. He says, the world is not what it was advertised to be. There is a discrepancy between brochure and product. It's so true, right? Anyone who's experienced real loss knows that the bestseller God, the one promising prosperity, constant protection, this tidy little plan for your life, it simply doesn't match the reality of human suffering. The product just doesn't match the brochure. So we're left needing an explanation that actually fits the harsh, undeniable evidence of the world we're standing in.
And to find that explanation, we turn to the philosopher Nikolai Berdyaev. Now, he wasn't writing from some comfortable armchair in a safe, quiet era, not at all. Born into the Russian aristocracy, he was exiled for his early Marxist beliefs and eventually deported by the Bolsheviks in 1922 on the famous philosopher's ship. The guy watched the rise of totalitarianism, lived through 2 world wars, and literally died mid-sentence at his desk in Paris. This illustrates something absolutely crucial. Berdyaev's radical theology was forged directly in the burning fires of the 20th century. He had every excuse in the world to become a bitter atheist, but instead, he developed a system that stared the darkness right in the face.
To really grasp how radical Berdyaev's view is, we need a contrast. Think of classical theology's watchmaker God. You know the concept, the God of tidy design, safe, distant, treating the universe like this predictable clockwork mechanism. But as Kriger points out, the atrocities of the 20th century effectively broke the watchmaker. Instead, Berdyaev gives us the God of agency. This isn't a mechanic. This is a tragic artist. A God who has a distinct character, who makes choices, and who takes immense, frankly, terrifying risks to bring the world into existence. We literally have to retire the watchmaker if we want to understand the world as it actually is.
Now, to understand how this artist works, we have to look at his medium. And here's where it gets mind-bending. Berdyaev borrows a concept from German mysticism called the abyss, or ungrund. Basically, this is a primordial, uncreated freedom that exists right alongside God. God works with it, yes, but he didn't create it. Just think about how completely that reframes the age-old problem of evil. If God didn't create this primordial freedom, then human freedom isn't just a divine gift that God has total control over. It's a pre-existing medium that he has to grapple with.
Think about how much this changes the whole dynamic. A watchmaker built in a clock controls every exact function, right? If a gear breaks, well, that's a design flaw. But God is an artist carving marble. He has to work with the ancient grain, the natural faults, and the cracks that are already present in the stone. That stone is the abyss. It's that primordial freedom, which means the cracks in our world, the tragedies, the darkness, they are the medium asserting its own nature. It's not a flaw in the artist's ultimate design. It's the raw, untamed material of freedom showing through the sculpture.
So you're probably wondering, why work with this dangerous marble in the first place? Well, it comes down to a pretty harsh logic. Step 1, genuine love requires freedom. A programmed robot just can't love you. Step 2, for freedom to be real, it absolutely requires the possibility of refusal. Step 3, refusal, when it's actually exercised, produces harm. And therefore, Step 4, suffering becomes the inevitable, unavoidable cost of a universe that contains love. You simply cannot have a universe with genuine creativity and love without opening the door to massive risk and suffering. They're a package deal.
And this brings us to a really profound reframing of divine power. Kriger captures it so beautifully. He says, God is as powerful as he can be without breaking us. Anything more powerful than that would not be love. Really think about that for a second. God deliberately limits his own power. His omnipotence isn't about fixing every little thing like some sort of cosmic micromanager. If he did that, he'd override our freedom and destroy the exact love he was trying to cultivate. Instead,
His power is found in his deep, unflinching presence with us right in the middle of our suffering.
But because God refuses to break us, because he honors that primordial freedom, there's a huge consequence. We arrive at what Berdyaev calls the wound in God. Now, classical theology often paints God as untouchable, right? Completely unaffected by human affairs. Berdyaev argues the exact opposite. Because God cannot simply override our choices without destroying us, he suffers. He bleeds right alongside his creation. Every cruelty in human history is a direct wound in the divine being. He is in the drama with us, paying the terrible cost of the freedom he allowed.
But here is where Boris Kriger introduces a profound, almost halting complication to Berdyev's system, bringing us to the first doubt. You see, Berdyaev deeply admires this tragic setup, the noble artist bearing the cost of freedom. But Kriger asks a much tougher question. Was the package actually worth the cost? Did anything have to be made at all? A God free enough to take this terrifying wager on freedom was also totally free to simply not make the wager?
Let's take a hard look at the actual cost of this package. Yes, absolutely, this universe of freedom produces great loves and incredible saints. But the cost is largely paid by beings who never consented to the wager in the first place. We're talking about unconsenting victims of historical disasters, children who don't survive, and the billions of animals caught in brutal cycles of predation. Kriger really grounds the philosophy in stark human empathy here. It's one thing to sit back and admire the tragic beauty of a free universe. It's quite another to look at the unconsenting victims who foot the bill and say, with total certainty, that opening the package was the right choice.
But regardless of whether the universe should have been made or not, we are here, inside it. And Berdyaev provides a really fascinating framework for how we're supposed to operate within it. Think about the nature of evil for a second. Evil isn't just the lack of good, it is a very specific style of freedom. It's freedom folded inward, destroying order, tearing things down. Creativity, on the other hand, is freedom uncurling outward. It's making things, building relationships, adding to reality. If evil is just destructive freedom, then the only actual counterweight we have in this entire universe is freedom acting creatively. Which leads us to Berdyaev's ultimate takeaway: creativity as the human vocation. In a lot of traditional views, human purpose is just seen as passive obedience, right? Just follow the rules, don't mess up. But Berdyaev argues that because we are made in the image of a creator God, our purpose is active making. We are literally here to add to the world. A parent raising a child, a teacher explaining a difficult concept, a friend just listening closely, these are all profound acts of creativity, pushing back against the dark void of the abyss.
I absolutely love this story Kriger shares to illustrate the point. An interviewer once asked an elderly composer what he had been doing with his life all those decades. The composer simply replied, "I have been adding to the amount of music in the world. There was less music, I added some." I mean, how perfect is that? It proves that even if we harbor that midnight doubt, even if we wonder whether the world should have been made at all, our job while we are here, trapped in this tragic, beautiful marble, is to add beauty to it. And that leaves us with this final, provocative thought. You possess that exact same primordial freedom. You are standing right now in the middle of an unfinished, sometimes terrifying, but wildly beautiful drama. So the question is, in a broken, tragic world, what will you add that wasn't there before? Take a moment and really think about that as you go about your day. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.